Good morning. You're watching the Shield Bearer of Faith with Save One More Life. Talking to you from a far off place. My team and I just got back a little bit ago from a early morning prayer session with some police officers. So I got to go and share my convictions, my thoughts on my favorite Bible verse. I'll talk more about that in a moment. With 40 officers this morning. It's, as far as I understand it, it's the shift that's getting ready to go out on the street and serve and protect this community. And after sharing my favorite verse, I got to pray with all of them. And it's very humbling to be given those opportunities. It's not a little thing, guys. Trust is not something that is built overnight. Trust is also not something that is built in a shallow way, especially if you're like a lot of these people that we're encountering, a lot of these officers. Being allowed to spend intimate time with them in their spaces, like their offices, their department, whatever, their training venues, being allowed to be there is a sign of trust. And it's interesting as we try to build these relationships. It's interesting to see the proof, the fruit of the Spirit in what the trainings are all about. So whether people realize it or not, most people here don't know anything about Save One More Life, other than the fact that I wear a shirt that says it whenever we train. It's like the only shirts I own here. Other than that, they don't really know anything about the foundation of it or what the mission statement is or anything like that. But it is to save lives, both physically and spiritually. That is the foundational statement of what Save One More Life is about. Save lives, physically and spiritually. And the way that we do that, the conviction I have about it, is that we go and try to witness about Christ through trauma trainings and providing supplies and God forbid it be necessary, but also if need be, through rendering aid to people directly. That is the key. That's the access to get to actually spend time with these people that otherwise, for most missionaries, are somewhat unreachable. The experiences I had as an officer, I never dreamt God would use in such a way. No idea. I never thought at the time that I was doing police work, I never thought it would be anything more than just cool experiences to shape me maybe as a human being. I'd go home, maybe tell my wife, my kids about it, but otherwise it would just end there. I had no idea the magnitude that God would have for those testimonies. So what do I mean by it's the key or it's the access? I got to go share my convictions about Isaiah 6:8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord say, "Whom shall I send and who will go for us?" And I said, "Here I am, send me." And the Lord said, "Go and say to these people." And it's essentially seen biblically as Isaiah's commission. That's kind of the overarching statement you'll see in some Bibles. The way that I take it and the potency that verse has for me is actually starting just before that, where Isaiah is admitting, he's acknowledging, he's in the presence of the Lord in this vision that he's having. And he's acknowledging that I'm unworthy. I'm a man of unclean lips is the wording that he uses. And I'm from a people of unclean lips. I am unclean. I am not worthy to be in your presence. I don't matter. And I relate to that. I do. I had a moment in my life where I had that realization. God, I don't have it. I'm not worthy of it, And then similar in my own way to what Isaiah then describes, where an angel of the Lord comes over and puts a hot coal in his mouth and cleanses the unclean, purges the sin from Isaiah is the description you're given. Then the conversation, my favorite verse, comes up. Then I heard the voice of the Lord, which means he was listening. Isaiah had to be listening in order to hear the voice of the Lord. And then God is asking for volunteers in that statement. Who shall I send? Who will go for everyone else to things that nobody else wants to go to? Who will go to these places? And I'm obviously inferring some now. I'm telling you the way that I feel it, the way I interpret it in my own spirit. Who will go to these places and these things, and these terrible events that nobody else wants to go to? The next piece, the vital piece. After the call has been made, who will go? Isaiah essentially raises his hand and says, I will. Here I am. Please notice me, Father, and send me. Then the next piece that I think gets overlooked a lot is go. That's the next piece. Cool. God's calling for volunteers. Isaiah says, send me. I'm right here, Lord. And then God says, go. And then he describes this difficult task. If you read the rest of that, Isaiah is told to go and tell a people group something that's not very pleasant. He's essentially telling these people, you're not going to hear, you're not going to see, you're not going to realize what God's trying to show you. At least that's my interpretation at this time, my understanding at this time. The trainings that we do here, that is where my heart is on it. I offered up to myself, to God, when I realized I was essentially a man who was unclean, who was dirty, who was sinful. I wasn't worthy, I'm still not worthy. And I said, God, I know I'm broken. I know I'm lost, and I know that my way of living isn't working. And God cleansed me of that. He purged the sin from me. And then, in my own way, guys, I heard the voice of the Lord. In my case, it was not audible. I didn't have a vision like Isaiah, but it was nonetheless real. God knows how to communicate to us in a way that we individually understand. And I felt that moment. Who will go? And I said, God, here I am, send me there. Wherever that is. Because somebody has to be willing to go where no one else wants to go. In some cases, maybe it's Ukraine, maybe it's Syria, maybe it's name off your place. Maybe it's your backyard when somebody's falling down needing help. Somebody's got to go. And chances are it's not going to be an easy task. But God's looking for volunteers to do the hard things. The trainings allow me the opportunity to share things like that. I spoke some about that this morning. With 40 officers, their chief allowed me, their chief asked me to come and pray with them because of the service we're providing. That's the only way. That's the only reason we've had access like that. Because we have showed up, we're on time, we give it everything we've got, every class, I give them everything I've got, and we try to serve them wanting nothing in return. That's the format. That's how you reach otherwise unreachable people. You put yourself out there. You've got to say, God, I'm right here. I'm not worthy. I'm not qualified. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to speak to them. I don't know how to integrate with them. But here I am, send me. And he will. He will absolutely do that. In fact, you got to be really careful when you say that. When you offer yourself and you really mean it, it's not some passing statement. It's a heart change of, I'm here. I want to go to your mission. He's going to do it. It's probably not going to be easy. It's probably not going to be where you would rather go. But that is where the Spirit will fuel you. That is where he will show up the most. When you're not strong, when you're not sure how to accomplish the task, that's where he's going to be. He'll make you qualified. I really get humbled every week now because we continuously are getting these opportunities to meet with, talk to, pray with these guys that otherwise I won't reach. I was given this shirt. Seems minor. I was given this shirt that I can't even read. It's a very nice shirt. It's an athletic shirt, like a running shirt. It's got F-16 on one of the sleeves. They pointed this out to me specifically. F-16. This was given to me and two of my other teammates because we went and jogged in a very calm but still very important memorial run for an officer who died, not even of combat. He died of some sort of cancer, I believe, something like that. But because we went and spent that time on one cold morning, we decided, they invited us to go. We said yes. We went and spent time with a few hundred people. Yeah, it was cold. We were probably a little tired. It was on a weekend. But we said yes, and as a result, that built trust. This morning, when I went and prayed with these folks, again, it seems minor, but before I prayed with them, they gave me this. It's a gesture of trust, guys, that is only possible through time spent in close proximity. There are features of my training that are important that nobody knows, nobody sees. It's not scripted. It's not something I've written down. It's just the way it has to go. One example I shared with a chaplain this morning is that when I'm making these officers or these soldiers, whoever I'm training here, when I'm making them get on the ground and put tourniquets on, in this culture, it's a big deal to get on the ground. They don't like it when kids sit on the floor here. There's something demeaning about it. So when I'm yelling and I'm like, hey, get on your chest, get on the ground, put a tourniquet on your left arm, I'm on the ground also, at least the first application. But then I usually will jump in there with them, or my guys will also, and we will be on the ground in the literal dirt with them. That's how you build trust. By being in the dirt with them. That is the way. That type of interaction, 250 officers, the number that they've quoted recently, that's how many we've trained so far here. That's awesome. The training is awesome. I love doing it, but it's only useful to connect us for the goal of speaking about the Spirit. All the rest of it is great. It's useful. It's a tangible skill set that they can immediately go and apply in this world here. But it's all null and void because we're all going to still die one day. So that training is only to get to the last 20 minutes of class. All the rest of the hours is just to build up to that point where I speak to them about a very personal testimony. I share with them something that's deeper, and I get to pray with them. All the rest to get to that. Going and jogging with these guys. Being allowed to go and tour their police department. We just were allowed to do that. They asked us to come and do a tour. They wanted to share something more intimate with us. That spent time allowed us to go pray this morning. Time is the most valuable resource we have. It's the only one we cannot get more of. Every other resource you can probably find a way to get more of, but not time. How are you spending your time? Is it on things that are worth spending it on? Is it trying to make the world better? There's a lot of pain and suffering in this country. There's a lot of pain and suffering all over the world. I can't fix that. I I can't fix even a little bit of it most of the time. But we can do a little more. We can do a little better every day. I want to see God move. I don't want to see Trump get the credit for peace here. I want to see Christ get the credit for peace here. I want this entire country to change. I want to be able to look back at the time here and be able to honestly say that we got to play a role as the hands and feet for Jesus in a difficult place. Not so we get recognition, not so Save One More Life gets recognition, but so we can say, man, we got to be part of what God was doing there. I wish that for any of you that see this video, in your own way, wherever that is. God's looking for volunteers. The question is, are you volunteering? And you got to be careful if you mean it. And don't say it if you don't mean it. Here I am, Lord. Send me wherever you want me to go. Send me to the hard things. And then better buckle up, because he's going to do it. That's what living's about for me. Trying to tell one more person. I got to have a dinner meeting. I'll end with this. I got to have a dinner meeting a couple days ago with guys that matter, and I just don't. But like these chiefs, we had a small, very intimate dinner where I got to share my testimony of when the Holy Spirit hit me. And they listened fervently. I didn't throw that at them in the first day or the second or the fifth. It took time. Quit wasting your time. I'll see you later.